What up, homies? Welcome back to the Rhythm Section, brought to you by the Mind Refinery. I'm your host, Kyle Bodanis. This week is the penultimate episode of our in-depth look at the creative world of Kanye West. Coburn and I are joined again by Mind Refinery creative Andrew Lanca to talk about Yeezus. Look out for the final episode coming in a couple weeks. If you feel the need to randomly listen to commentary on every single Kanye West album, mosey on over to the Mind Refinery podcast channel, wherever you get your podcasts, and you can check out all the back episodes. Also, if you have time, don't forget to follow the Mind Refinery on social media. And now, on with the show. So, this moves us into Yeezus, which was, I mean, it's a him chopping down his sound again, which, I mean, to that, as we said before, great artists are able to do that. Doing it twice is a little ridiculous. I fucking love this. Right, this is in my probably top 3 favorite Kanye West records.
It's in my top 3.
I absolutely love it. It is aggressive, a middle finger in your face. So what do we think, guys?
I mean, this album, it's just like so, it's like loud and in your face and
abrasive.
It's abrasive, yeah. I think that's the best way to describe it.
It's his punk record.
It's completely.
I feel like Kanye was like listening to like some like Death Grips at this time or some shit. Like I don't know, it goes hard, man. Like I mentioned before, I got into Kanye after Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. So after the album comes out, whatever, Cruel Summer, Watch the Throne, all that stuff, I went through all the back catalog. I'm now a Kanye West fan, stamped and approved, and this is my first album. Like this is my first new album that hit me, like, for Kanye. And I gotta say, like, when it hit me, I was like, fuck yeah. Like I remember when it dropped, like it was almost like an event. I remember like reading this like Reddit like reaction thread to like the album, like when it dropped, and like I don't know, I feel like everywhere I went, it was like playing. Like if I would go to a bar or like whatever, like it was just everywhere that summer that it came out, and I couldn't have been happier. I love this album. I really don't think there's a bad track on here. Maybe like Bound 2 I'm not like the biggest fan of, but otherwise, like, yeah, I think it's just a solid album.
I feel like this album got the acclaim that 808s should have gotten, and this album is kind of like on another side of the coin to 808s. Like this is like maybe was more palatable to people at the time than 808s, but I think it was like they both are kind of on these divergent paths of what Kanye was doing different ways.
I could see that.
Yeah, it's funny because I wasn't on 808 when I first heard it, but this one I was on right away because there was the SNL performance, which was incredible.
Yeah,
absolutely incredible. He played Black Skinhead. It was fucking so good. I can't remember the other. I think he also played New Slaves. On the back of the episode, and this was
sorry, just going off what you said really quickly. Look how different the SNL performance was for Yeezus compared to Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
It was
what a metaphor for the album. Like the SNL performance was so over the top for Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and then for Yeezus it was just like him and like some singers and like a backdrop. Like a lighting backdrop or whatever.
Yeah, I love how it's stripped it down, and I liked that this record. See, I had to, get used to 808s and then eventually grew on me, and I started loving it. This one was more attuned to what I naturally like. I mean, I like loud as fuck hip hop, Chicago house, and fucking punk rock. So like, if this is the Kanye West record, you're gonna fucking enjoy that, if that's the case. And I thought that it was really crazy. I love that he went in just a fucking completely different direction. And the big thing is ballsy. Like, he didn't have to do a record like this. It just was. I don't think that many artists take the chances that he does.
No, I don't like. Do you think though that this is Kanye's most experimental album?
Yes.
I would say, yeah, like hands down.
I'm trying to think. Jesus is King is experimental in a different way, I feel like.
It's kind of bad in a different way.
But I would say so.
I know what you're saying. I think, I mean, we're going to get into Jesus is King. I think he thought he was being John Coltrane, and it didn't work out. Continue, sorry.
Do you think that Rick Rubin kind of went in his Beastie Boys bag on this album?
Yes. Oh,
Because
yeah.
that's like, I love that he brought. I feel like Kanye at this time was like so raw, and he was kind of like losing touch a little bit. Because like I just remember like the kind of rollout or the jumbled or whatever you want to call it, this album. He was like, it was called Yeezus, and then he like just like kind of was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna do a cover, and then he put like the red piece of tape, and like he like put it on Twitter, and then kept like pushing it back, and he wouldn't let pre-orders happen. And I remember like there was like a projection in like a bunch of different cities, so he just projected like some art on the wall in Toronto.
It was
super
cool.
It was so like guerrilla, like it was everything about the album felt so like guerrilla style.
This was his Rocky IV, man. This was he's bloated. He rises, and now then it's like the bloated excess of like Watch the Throne, and yeah, like you can only listen to so much excess. That's why 70s corporate rock eventually just died out. It was slayed by punk because people there's to an extent don't want to hear that, and this was just a complete course correction to that, and it could not even a correction, just like he completely went another way with it. And he's experimenting with industrial is a really big base of this. Industrial hardcore rap elements, Chicago house. You know what I mean? Drill is fucking huge on it. So you know what I mean? He's got Cephalstein on it, who I still can barely pronounce his name properly. Or I have never spelled it once properly. So I mean, like this is it's like where is the influences? I think this is where you can see him listening to those things. Also, he's a big Radiohead fan. I think that this like that looms on this as well, because this for me, like I use the comparison of OK Computer to Kid A for 808s, but like this is really the one that matches that, because he just totally took this and took his sound and got rid of it and then did something. I mean, like all of these songs aren't even necessarily pop songs, you know what I mean? And he rocks the pop style, and songwriting format so religiously, and this kind of tore it down. And as Lanza said, this was everywhere, man. There was the SNL performance. Wolf of Wall Street pushed it a lot too, because Black Skinhead, right. Because it was on for it, you know what I mean? And like I don't know how much crossover is between most Martin Scorsese fans and Kanye West, but it's interesting because it's like kind of mixing audiences and showing and putting him in a new space, you know what I mean? Because how many other Kanye West songs are in like a Scorsese type movie, And then this one is just like, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was completely unconventional the way it came out, and I mean, I love it. This is one of my favorites of his.
I love how short the album is. It's like short, it's concise, but it has like a lot to it. And in the way that he like, there's only one collaboration listed on it. I think it's featuring I Am a God featuring God, but he has like Chief Keef. He has like you said, Gesaffelstein. He has Brodinski behind the boards. He has like Hadmo, who was great at this time. Montreal's Loonies is on there. Like he brings in like No ID and 88 Keys again, and Travis Scott's like behind there somewhere. Like the way he like did all the production and the collaboration, but it's still very much kind of just him.
Yeah. Well, what are standout tracks on this, guys? Like, what do you like?
I gotta go. Hold My Liquor is probably one of my favorite Kanye West tracks of all time. Blood on the Leaves.
Blood on the Leaves for me.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Maybe
I was listening to Blood on the Leaves today, while I was working, and I had to just like kind of put work on hold for a second and just like rock out to that song. Like I was feeling it.
I was blaring On Sight before because I love that Daft Punk.
Such a good opening. It's such a good opening.
It's so like I mean Daft Punk. I'm pro Daft Punk coming out anytime. Black Skinhead, I mean, as a single, it's just unlike any other single he's ever put out, and I love that. Just how aggressive and in your face it is. and
Those like
how
machine gun drums just kill it.
I mean, this is where you're really hearing drill. Like, it's
Yeah.
fucking, you know what I mean? I love Blood on the Leaves. It's an excellent track. Hold My Liquor is a fantastic track. New Slaves. Honestly, man, I'm liking this almost from head to toe.
I just don't really love Bound 2, honestly.
Well, thankfully, it's at the end, and you can just cut it after, send it up.
You know
If you're gonna put a bad track on your record, like make it easy. Make it easy to just fucking get out of there.
And the video, I mean, come on.
Yeah, I thought the video was hilarious. Though, and
the video is hilarious.
Did Seth?
Yeah, and Franco, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really hilarious. It was a really like funny kind of time period for Kanye because like Kanye was like very like self-serious, but also like like people were kind of having fun at his expense.
Yeah, but I feel like he's kind of in on it too. I mean, sometimes when he allows himself to have a sense of humor, but yeah, no, it's weird. It was a weird time. The internet really embraced this album, I feel like.
Well, this is one of the problems that's upsetting about Kanye West in terms of him like having a mental illness and having manic depression, and which is fucking tough. And it's like when he's not down and when he's up, he's funny and stuff. But like when he's dealing with the darker form of that, I think that's when he gets self-important and having. I mean, because a lot of this was in protest to this idea of him not being able to go into fashion and stuff like that, which kind of leads into the why this change in direction question.
Yeah, it was kind of a reaction to that. Exactly. I know there was like the whole thing with like Nike and like fucking who was it? They like didn't want him to go to like other people's like fashion shows, and he's just like fuck that. And he's just like, I don't know. It's kind of like this is like almost like a fuck you to like a lot of that kind of like, I feel like, that fashion culture.
Yeah, I think that like definitely the kind of like the fuck you mentality behind this is like definitely is like brings like the punk rap elements of this album. It's like basically like
for sure
like, all these different systems and like maybe even to his label because he wasn't even like promoting it like the way that his label probably wanted.
Do we think Kanye West is justified in that anger? Because I always find it interesting. Like, you can't debate about whether he is a musical genius. That is not up for discussion. And I find when anybody tries to challenge that, that it's just you just don't like him. And I think that those two things should be separated.
And that's fine. You're allowed to have an opinion on him, but like you can't deny the man has fucking talent.
No, I think that's where it's disingenuous for sure.
I think he's justified in it. Like I can't say like I understand like what all he's always angry about, and like is this the era when he's yelling at Sway too? Is this like that?
This is the that's what it's from. This is the you don't have all the answers, Sway.
Yeah, I just like remember watching an interview and like kind of like knowing like maybe every second person he was like listing there and like not really getting it, but like I also like feel him and like like these are like his problems, like that's like what he finds challenging. So I think he's justified.
Yeah. Sorry, you think what?
I think he's justified.
Oh, justified. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. The only thing where I'm just kind of like justified ? Is because Donald Glover does all of this shit. You know what I mean? And he doesn't face this kind of resistance.
I feel like Donald Glover, for the most part, like really shies away from the public eye, while Kanye West almost like thrives on it. I think that's one of the biggest differences between the two.
Like if Donald Glover, sorry, continue. I keep interrupting. I apologize.
Oh no. I just think I think Kanye's just trying to do things at a bigger scale, and he kind of has a track record to prove it. Like he was like,
for sure,
he was doing Louis Vuitton, and then they're kind of like, oh well, you can't really do Louis Vuitton anymore. So he's like, fuck that. Like like I want to do he wants to be the biggest and the best at whatever he's doing. So like to kind of go into these different realms like that he's not known for as much, like fashion or whatever. And now look at his fashion company. Now it's like worth billions of dollars. And
look at his fucking shoes. Look at Yeezus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, dude's done it.
They're nice. I
think like at that point, like, of course he's gonna be angry, and like now he's kind of proven that his anger was like righteous. I think.
Yes, I think with the Donald Glover thing, there's a couple things. Like, there's a few points I have. One, I think with Kanye West, he's the kind of guy who can't be happy unless he's expressing himself in a bunch of different ways, because there's different facets to his personality, which I can relate to on a significantly less talented level. So he's so used to his music being at that like at that level, that realistically, if you were trying to compare a fashion designer to his musical level, like you're looking at among the best designers in the world or ever. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you want, it's like his brain can't do it small. So one thing that Donald Glover does is he just goes out and does it. He doesn't talk about it. He's like,
Yeah.
I just go out and make Atlanta, and that's it. And I feel like if I had any criticism for Kanye West, it would be just like, it's happy. Just put it out. Don't talk about doing it, because I think that I think he's a genius, and I think I think that sometimes he feels he needs to prove that a lot, but then given all his success, it's like like in hindsight, it makes complete sense that he was feeling like that.
Yeah, I think also like Kanye West probably wouldn't be happy with like an FX, like
Yeah,
Kanye would want HBO, or he'd want like he'd want to do something that's in every movie theater or something that like might not make sense to like that business revenue model. So I think Kanye wouldn't he's never happy, just being handed like whatever he's told. He always wants to he wants to compete with Nike. He wants to
he's not a
kind of
fly under the radar guy.
yeah, like
Like Donald Glover created one of the best shows on TV very quietly, and then all of a sudden it blew up. And Kanye West can't really operate like that.
Well,
No.
I feel like this like Yeezus is him flying under the radar. Like, you know what I mean? That's the most flying under the radar you're gonna get from Kanye is Yeezus, and like that's still pretty not under the radar.
His choice in collaborators kind of help him fuel this change. What are standout collaborations in this?
I think Justin Vernon's contributions to this album.
Hold My Liquor, right?
Yeah, Home Liquor, and he does like vocals, I think, on another song as well. Obviously, Chief Keef, like because he's tapping into like the current cult like climate. Frank Ocean has backup vocals, but I would say like also like getting King Louis on here, who like really doesn't have that big of a name now, but like was very instrumental in Chicago drill, and he's on like featured on Send It Up. But I remember him talking about like getting flown to France to do this album, and it's like the first time he's left Chicago. So I think Kanye being able to tap into people who kind of aren't in his sphere of influence, but also like get creative potential from them and translate it into something is like it's like unlike anyone else.
Yeah, I think the Gesaffelstein and Daft Punk, like, and then Brodinsky too, because but I think with Gesaffelstein, and because this is it's like rooted in Chicago and Europe. Like, if you were to like, what are the two spots where the music came from to make this album? It's those two. Like, it's like Paris, France, and and Chicago, because you get the drill, the Chicago house, and then you get synth. You get the really heavy synth, and retro vibe, coming from Daft Punk and Gesaffelstein. And I think that the dimension that they're able to go on this is incredible. And then it's like the other side of his synth sound, whereas 808s may have been a little bit more of a, like, if it was dark, it was more on the sad front, you know what I mean? Or it was a little bit more introspective, whereas this is aggressive and it's darker in that in that very European kind of synth kind of way. And like, as I said, one of my favorite tracks on it's On Site. I love how it opens, and it's Daft Punk they're fucking fantastic. I love the way they collaborate, Daft Punk and fucking Kanye West. Like, I'm really hoping that like there is a continuation of that moving forward, because I think it's so damn good. Yeah.
Do you remember this album leaking? Do you remember that when the album leaked?
Oh yeah.
And like, I feel like that doesn't happen too much these days anymore with like DSPs and stuff. But I remember like it kind of created a frenzy because people couldn't like understand the album.
People went crazy.
But yeah, it went like
Was it the finished album?
it was a finished album. I think it just leaked like 4 days earlier or something.
It was like a few tracks I
Oh.
heard. Like I heard Black Skinhead, I'm a God, New Slaves, and I'm in It were the ones I heard. Because I think it was a couple of them trickled, and then the rest of the whole thing came out, was leaked, and yeah, people were just like, what the fuck is this? And I remember listening to it and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I liked it, but I was still shocked that this is what happened. And like when you consider the collaborations he put on it, you know, it makes sense. And that those are very specific creative directions. It's not like they went into the studio and this kind of just materialized. It's you knew who you were picking and you knew, like, it was very simple. This is kind of why I'm like, okay, maybe if Kanye West like certain ideas and certain ways of working uh are universally good across different art forms, and the embrace of collaboration and the understanding of influence and being able to contextualize your peers and the people who came before you always allows you to create good things. So now I'm wondering, well, when I listen to this, I'm like, maybe they should have just fucking let him go nuts with the whole fucking fashion thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to know how you think this record is viewed through the context of Kanye West's career.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, for me personally, it's definitely in my top three. Like this era of Kanye is definitely my favorite. Like 808s, Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and Yeezus. Like this is my that's my shit. Like this era of Kanye is my shit. So it's definitely, I would say it's number three for me. But I don't know. I'm not sure as far as like fans of Kanye. Like where does it rank for them?
I mean, I said it's top three for me.
Yeah, I'd say this album's pretty polarizing though. I think like people either like really like this album or they see it as like outlier. I don't know too many people who are like kind of like in the middle on this album.
No, they talk about it like it's like anti-music. You know what I mean? Like it's like because he maintains his pop sensibilities on everything so well that when this comes out, people are kind of like, "What the fuck am I listening to?" You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's definitely in the great. Definitely in the great lexicon of protest albums. You know, the kind of thing where Lou Reed is handing his record label just an album of noise because he wants to get out of his contract. But this, I mean, it's a little bit more. Obviously, this is still a record that's put out in fantastic, and it's, but you know what I mean. It's an absolute sharp turn away from what's going on. So if you're, you know, this is why it's probably good he's on the label he's on, because if you can imagine if he was signed to Capitol and he gave him this record.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Like, can you imagine if he takes this and is like, this is what it is. Here you go, guys. Like, what do they say?
No.
I don't think you get to make this record without like, you know, kind of proving like yourself so many times. I think too, like, I think critics were more open to this album after like some of the people who panned on 808s. I think people kind of had a bit more of an understanding of like where Kanye could go and, you know, like where he'd gone in the past. So they were kind of a bit more open to receiving this album than they might have been like when it came as album number 3 or album number 4.
I think that's a good point, because I think like art is this weird thing when you're trying to critique it or even understand it, that the idea of having to contextualize it against the rest of an artist's work or the contemporaries can be simultaneously super limiting, but also, you know, super freeing. Well, actually, not even super freeing. I withdraw this whole comment. It's limiting, because if you want to go, and this is why fucking just changing your sound randomly and putting out something like that isn't connected to the rest of your work, people are just kind of like question mark, because they always want to try to understand it based on you. Everyone's always trying to like classify everybody, and to an extent, we've done that here, but at some point you have to appreciate the diversions.
Exactly. And I think with an artist like Kanye, and like obviously there's not many artists like Kanye, like the divergence is a part of like the story they're trying to tell. And I think often when you have an artist or a band kind of diverge from their sound, it's easy to kind of like jump down their throat and be like, oh, what is this? What is this? What is this? But how boring would it be if every band put out the same album all the time?
Exactly, just remaking their first album over and over again.
And it stifles creativity. It stifles because like bands and rappers, the ones who are under like seriously under the major label yoke, like they have to think about, do I want to go back to being irrelevant? And the label might not support what you're doing, and it could end up, and like they have such an exertion of force on the artist that so many good better things could have been created. And also like there's the oppression of fan opinion too. Like your fans start getting used to a certain thing coming out, and when you deviate from that, they feel like you're taking their music away from them. And that's a lot to kind of deal with. I do love that he is unapologetic and ruthless in his pursuit of wanting to other sounds, but also this idea of it being a protest record, and that people at the time were trying to say almost the creative equivalent of shut up and dribble, where you're just doing this music and don't try to do the other things. You know what I mean? Maybe stick to what you're good at, all this kind of stuff. And to an extent, I do believe that, but I think that he has a level of talent that warrants going in other directions. Because like this kind of record, if it says anything to me, it's I created Dark Twisted Fantasy, I created 808s, I created all these albums, and like I can't just express myself through music anymore. I need an outlet, and here's proof of this. I'm just going to release an album that doesn't sound like anything else I've ever released, and it's still going to be universally loved and acclaimed. It's divisive at times, but critics love this fucking record. And his ability to just fucking throw out something again that isn't like anything he's ever done, I don't really see. I don't know many artists who have done that.
I think too, this album is also an album that you can get into if you're not a fan of traditional hip hop. Like this album can pull people in from other genres in a way that is kind of unique in his catalog of albums.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Kind of like pulling from like the EDM fandoms and stuff. I could see that.
Yeah, you can drop. I can see DJ sets, that are more based around synth, European style music, and you can drop Hold My Liquor in there. Like it
fits.
It fits. There's crossover, and again, he's transcending the idea of pop music. He's moving into different styles, and it doesn't feel out of place.
Yeah, exactly.
So guys, on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up. I think we got to move on. Thank you so much for doing this. This was great.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.
All right, talk soon, guys.